All right, cool. All right, first of all, I gotta start with what the fuck is a union, and why did you guys want to come on this podcast? Whoever wants to start, I don't know who wants to go
Jess.
first. Like for someone on the outside like me, I don't know what that is. What is that?
You know what's crazy is I never knew either when I first started. So I got a job at UPS. I didn't even know they were really a union when I started there, but it was supposed to be a part-time job. But when I got there, I realized that the company, they're union because that they're going to guarantee us work. We got a contract with the company. The company has a certain particular job or whatever that they need done, and the union comes in and they protect us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we get a contract that keeps all of us bound to the company, right? They can't just fire you like other jobs. You go, you show up one day, and then all of a sudden you're laid off or something, right?
Yeah.
Like we have language in our contract that prohibits a lot of that, or at least puts us somewhere else with the company, you know? So it's like security in a sense, I say, but it gets a group of people together, and we're all brothers and sisters where we work, and we all take care of each other, right? Because we're all union. That's how I figure it when I started up.
And you said you work in UPS, right?
Yeah, I'm UPS.
And so for the UPS, what is it that you because being in union and being a UPS worker are two different things, right? Like it's not both together.
No, UPS is a union company, so when you apply there, you become you
automatically become part
yeah,
of the union.
because you basically pay initiation dues to become in the union.
Right.
And then once you get your seniority, you get your, I think, I don't know what it is now, but back then it was only like 90 days or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And then you pay all your initiation fees, and then you pay dues every month.
Yeah.
You have a union dues that you paid, and that's your medical, that's all your benefits that you get for being a union member.
And all the union dues fluctuate depending on how much you make, right? Like some people pay more, some people
Correct.
pay less.
Yes. Yeah. So when you get raises and stuff like that, there's a percentage that goes up. When I first started, our union dues were maybe $18 or something like that.
Oh, it's cheap.
Yeah. Well, I made like $8.50 an hour back then.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So my checks were like maybe $100. But yeah. Then when you go driving, I think they went up to, I want to say $50 or $60 a month.
Uh-huh.
Now they're probably up to about $122, I think, a month, which still, when you think about it, is not very much.
Okay, so a union protects the employees from the employer.
Correct.
Okay, and so a lot of the times when this is happening, are you guys in a way enemies against the employer, or do you guys work and mutate together?
We got to work together for the most part. I mean, yeah, we go at it with each other. It's not, but you can't go into a place where you work and just hate.
Right.
management,
Yeah. That
you
makes
know
sense.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Because or else you're just butting heads all day long and nothing gets done.
Mhm.
You know. But yeah, in a sense, when you go in there, the union there's protection against those type of things. But yeah, we're not always fighting. We do fight a lot. We disagree because they want their thing one way, and then we're the ones that actually do the job. We're like, hey, should it go this way?
Yeah.
But
And so for that, you said when you become an employee, you're part of the union. When you're in the union, is it like, how do I say it? Like let's say you're a driver, right?
Mhm.
Can you still be a driver and be the president of the union, or do you have to just specifically be working for the union itself?
So if you want to work into so we're like shop stewards, right? I'm a shop steward.
Mm-hmm.
So I do my trade, which is a UPS driver, and then I deal with the union work that comes up, like if a driver has an issue, attendance, and like that. And then, but if I wanted to be what we're actually running for at Solidarity Slate, to take over the local,
Mm-hmm.
which is 952 in our specific area, if I was like the president, I wouldn't be able to do my normal job.
Your normal job, right? Because now you're solely focused on just making sure the union.
Yeah, because there's so much other work to do, you know. But yeah, at least that's what I envision. I don't know, Mike might be able.
Do you agree with like everything he just said? Like it's right, is spot on that?
Yeah, well, being in the union, because I come from both sides of it, because I worked in a family business for 21 years
Mm-hmm.
prior to becoming a union member. I became a union member late in life. I was 40 years old. But as a private company, I didn't enjoy the benefits that I have now as a union member.
Yeah.
And I've been a union member since 2002,
Mm-hmm.
which in the grand scheme of things, compared to a lot of people, is not a lot, but we've got a lot accomplished in that time period.
Uh-huh.
So January just started my 23rd year in the union.
That's a lot of
And
years.
the benefits, the medical, the dental, the pension. I didn't have any of that with my family's business. I mean, I had a small medical plan that we paid into, but it was nothing on comparative to what the union provides or the union negotiated through the company in negotiations.
Right.
For what we have today. None of us do. So the union is a collective of the employees, and the union itself, Local 952, they bargain the contracts collectively for all the members that are represented by Local 952.
Got you. Okay.
And that gives us more power collectively to negotiate than just an individual negotiating, Mike's terms with Albertsons.
Right.
Okay, I would have the bargaining power of one, as opposed to what we have, give or take, 2,000 or so total employees at Albertsons that are represented by Local 952, and that number, it's not a hard number. Like I said, it's give or take.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
You have X amount of drivers, and you have X amount of warehouse employees. You have maintenance people. So there's a lot of people that are totally, mechanics, cumulatively are represented. And so that gives us more power to bargain with.
And let's say, like you're saying, they get better medical benefits. With so many workers, how do they vote for that type of stuff? Like, because you said everybody has a say in what's going to be chosen, right?
Well, you have a pre-contract meeting, and everybody contributes their ideas to what they would like to see in the next contract.
Okay.
And then, you're obviously not going to get everything you want, so you try and pick and choose the major issues that you want to go after. A lot of that is wages and benefits, majority of the time.
Yeah, people want to get paid.
Your wages, your medical benefits, and your pension,
which
a lot of people don't have. There are a few companies that still have pensions, but that's something that, as union members, is huge, and you don't really appreciate that until you start getting to a position where you're ready to retire. Once you get into your 60s, you start thinking about that, and the younger guys don't think about it so much. They want the cash up front, when in reality, if you were contributing a little bit more into your pension, when you get ready to retire, you're not going to be rich by any stretch of the imagination. However, you will not be worrying about, paying your bills, eating, like a lot of senior citizens today have problems with.
Yeah.
And it's sad to see that, but that's the reality of the economy that we're in. It's extremely expensive to exist, especially in a state like California. If you retire and you move into a lower cost of living state, your pension benefits are going to go a lot farther, but a lot of guys are going to remain in California. They have their families here. And so they're dealing with that.
Okay, one more time. So is it in a way like let's say I'm an employee of UPS, right, or Albertsons? Am I voting for you so you can pick better wages and pensions or benefits for me on my behalf?
Yes.
Okay, so you're like representatives for the people.
Correct. Jesse, myself, and Carlos and Wayne. We are running against the current administration because we feel collectively we can represent the membership at a higher standard.
Got you. Right. Okay.
Okay. So they are looking at us to do a better job at representing them.
Right.
Yeah.
Collectively.
Right. And do you believe that's because you've been in them better? Like sometimes when you get elected and you've been in the administration for so long, you kind of lose sense of touch with the employees. Is that what's happening?
Correct. I think the current of the employees and their view of the administration, they probably feel that it's lacking to some extent. Their voices aren't being heard. Their contracts aren't what they perceive them to be or perceive what they should be. and they're going to be looking at somebody else who they feel can do a better job.
How is that even possible though? Because right now, for the past like 10 minutes, we've been talking about how unions are supposed to represent employees for their like how I can't find the word, but it's like to benefit them.
Right.
Why would an administration be questioned if it's like it's for them, like for the employees to do better for them? Like, why are we questioning the administration right now?
I think a lot of it is just the priority. Sometimes you have so many things that you want to get out of a contract
Gotcha.
or something, you lose sight of something else, you know, because say some people are focused, like we talked about a little bit, I want my money now, you know, I want that pay raise, I want that pay raise, I want pay raise in the company. And then maybe the company comes back and says like, well, if we're going to give you X amount of money, we're going to take it, you know, out of your pension, like we kind of discussed. And then that was one of the big concerns, because guys like get up there, oh, I've been there 23 years, and you do start to think about it. You're like, hey, what's after UPS, you know? Mm-hmm. And then that's one of my concerns. Like, well, even if you're putting anything there, like I want something, I want some type of bump there. I don't really need as much money up front, but we need to address
for the future.
Yeah, spread it everywhere, you know, evenly, you know, and the bump in pay could be to appease a different audience, you know. And
sorry, no, keep going.
No, yeah, just to, you know, make those people happy. And then what about us guys that, you know, we want money for our pension? That's a donation, you know.
That seems stressful, because imagine you do have 20-year-old workers, and then you have like on the other spectrum the 60-year-old workers. So how do you like balance that? Because you can't make everybody happy, right?
No, I mean, maybe not. That's one of the terms everyone likes to say, but I think you can, because realistically, you got to explain and educate a lot of these younger guys. Like when I first came in, I didn't know a lot. I learned from the older guys, and they're gonna tell you, "Hey, I know you're 20 right now. This is not your biggest concern and stuff, but when you get down the road, this is your career.
Yeah,
you know." And you're going to be thankful that we did bargain those type of things, because now you're going to be like, wow, you're looking back on it, you're like, dang, they took care of our pension. When I retire, I'm going to get this, or, you know.
I agree with you on that, but how often do you believe they even listen to you? Because I help a person with a nonprofit, right? And we work in Watts, and we have a lot of kids who are smoking at like 13. But there comes to a point where it's like, we can't tell them to stop, because then they'll lose respect for us, and they won't even come to our events. And so how do you do that with 20-year-olds where it's like, yeah, you can educate them, but they're not going to give a fuck. They're just going to be like, still pay me. Like, I understand, but that's far down the road for me. So it's like, how do you work with that?
I've learned that same thing. You could talk to some, you know, you can't lead a horse to water, right? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink, right? So what I've noticed with some of the younger guys that I've helped are it's just being there for them. There was a guy just recently I had to help out. He couldn't find a steward. He worked in the building, and when I get back at night and park my truck, he had an issue, and he was pretty upset because he couldn't find anyone. And one of the other drivers noticed. He's like, hey, there's a driver steward right there. You can use him too, you know. You could. So he came over to my truck, and I started talking to him, and I went and talked to a couple other supervisors that work in that shift, and we got it all sorted out. You know, it was kind of a misunderstanding, but when you help someone like that, I've noticed that, like, then you gain kind of the trust on it, and then they start believing the things that you say a little bit more, you know. And now I see him every day, and he says, what's up? He comes up to my truck and just says hi and stuff like that, and looks at, like, you know, my load, how much work you got in there. I got to unload, you know, because he unloads the trailer or the trucks at the end of the night. So that's the best way I can explain it, to be honest.
Yeah, myself, working with the younger guys, I take the time to speak with them when they have a problem one-on-one, look them in the eye, listen to everything they have to say, and then try and break it down from their perspective to my perspective.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay? Because we're going to look at it two different ways.
100%.
You know, when I'm speaking to somebody who's 30 to 40 years younger than I am, you know, sometimes you have what they call that generational gap in your view and your perspective on certain issues. But you try and cross that bridge. Like I said, all the members that come to me and I have relationships with, they know that when I look them in the eye and listen to them and give them my honest opinion, they trust me. They believe me. They call me, you know, well, I just got back off vacation. I can't even tell you how many times I had guys call me while I was 2,000 miles from here. I always answer my phone, no matter what. They know that if they call Mike no matter what. Whether I'm on vacation, it's a weekend, day off, I pick my phone up and I talk to them. And if I don't pick it up right away, I call them right back. And when they have an issue, depending on how significant that issue might be, If it's something that they can't wait on, then I refer them to one of the other stewards who's active on duty.
How would you answer this question? So what you just explained right now is what a lot of politicians do. They're great at listening to they're great at listening to the people who are going to vote for them, and they're there for them. Yet we understand, we've seen through politicians, like, they're good at doing that, yet when they get in office, they don't follow through with what they promise the people. And so I understand why you would want to get into this position, because you can get better wages, benefits, and pay for what you believe is right. But why do you care about helping the other person? Because I get you can help yourself, like, being in this position. But why care about helping all these other people?
Well, let me explain that, because now that you've already crossed over to that bridge, I'll explain a couple of very significant issues that I got done with the help of another steward who's now retired, and a couple other drivers who actually volunteered to help out. But for more than 20 years, the grocery industry, and I don't want to name the companies.
That's fine. Yeah, just the grocery
But
industry.
the grocery industry, along with other industries, have what they call a points policy.
Points policy.
Points policy.
What is that?
So that is, so if you call in sick, if you're tardy, if you don't clock in and out of lunch properly, you get an attendance point. You get a point.
Oh, kind of like a...
It's like a demerit.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's a tick against you.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
Okay. And so as truck drivers, we hold special federal protections
Okay.
that protect us from those policies,
Okay.
from the points.
Okay.
Which I had been arguing about this since I came out of probation in 2004 as a regular person, just a driver. I didn't understand why we were being disciplined for calling off sick when in our contract we were granted 5 sick days. So even if we utilized one of the 5 sick days that were in our contract, we were still being disciplined for using that day.
Who was the people in a way giving you the point?
Our company,
What?
Albertsons and Vons,
Why?
because that was part of their attendance policy. If you called in sick, you got an attendance point. And so we started working, and I started complaining about it, rather. But in the meantime, I didn't know the other individual who was involved with me, who's now retired. He actually had grievances going back on this since 2006. And they were never resolved. They were kind of ignored by the company and unfortunately by the local. But unbeknownst to us, once we really started moving forward with this, it turned out that Safeway and Vons had a settlement through OSHA going back in 1999 where they agreed to change their attendance policy, which they never did, and nobody enforced it. Then we found out that Local 952 had an arbitration they won for identical situation in 2002, and didn't tell anybody. The drivers that were affected were remedied, but nobody else enjoyed that benefit, and the old administration didn't enforce it.
Yeah, didn't keep up with. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah,
So we were being violated after 2 federal agreements for more than 2 decades.
How does that make any sense?
And so myself and the other steward in 2017, we had an issue, and we filed a complaint through OSHA, because OSHA is the governing body who enforces this regulation.
Right.
And so we filed our complaint, and Albertsons was offered multiple opportunities to settle, to come to some kind of reasonable settlement that would benefit both parties, that we could live with. They decided to force it to an administrative law judge through the federal government, and they lost.
Well, yeah, because that had already been passed.
It had already been, right. And so, they rolled the dice and gambled and lost. And we did this without being in office.
Yeah.
This was just
really?
It was just myself and another driver who were both shop stewards, but we had no authority at the local. We did this all on our own with no help from either the locals that were involved in this.
And what you just did is what the union is supposed to be doing. This is
In my opinion, yes. Okay, now, but as a steward, we have limited authority. Once a grievance is filed, it's up to the local to enforce that language that's in the contract, or the federal laws that protect us. You know, they like to say, well, it's not in the contract. Mm-hmm. Well, the IBT has a training manual that they put out over the grievance process, and in that training manual, that has one word where it says law. And then under that is like one paragraph that states, and this is a paraphrase, that state and federal laws supersede any union contract language. Okay?
Right.
But that's not enforced. Then our own bylaws for our local, also a paraphrase, state that the local will use all legal means necessary to better the working conditions for the employees. Legal means necessary, not contract language. And so if there is, as a steward and the other steward, we use every tool that's available to us, and we're not even in office. So if myself or Jesse or Carlos or Wayne, if we were in there and we would have the ability to do what myself and the other driver were doing without any real authority other than our own hard work, we could benefit thousands.
Mm-hmm.
And
why do you think it is that the administration in that time didn't do what you did? Was it because they were focused just on other things, or do you think they just didn't care?
Well, I wouldn't say didn't care. I mean, I don't know what outside influences are pushing their buttons, so to speak. All I know and what my goal is right and wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And if there is something wrong that's going on, then I do everything in my power to try and make it right. Yeah. Or at least to come up with some kind of reasonable compromise that'll benefit everybody and everybody can live with it. Now, you may not like it, but at least it's something that you can live with. Mm-hmm. But none of that is going on with, I mean, there are thousands of guys right now who are not enjoying any of the benefits that we've been able to secure for the drivers at Albertsons. And indirectly, I also helped the drivers at Ralph's win the same very issue. Mm-hmm. They used my information, they used my attorneys, and they were successful at having their attendance policy fixed.
Right.
As well as the drivers in Arizona, having their Albertsons drivers in Arizona having their issues fixed.
It seems like a ripple effect. That
it is. It absolutely is. Directly and indirectly, we've helped give or take 1,200 drivers have their working conditions fixed, and I've received phone calls from drivers who have seen my information online, what we got done. I've received phone calls from Massachusetts, Florida, and Indiana. Now, whether or not they actually moved on to have their problems fixed after us having our discussions, I don't know. Right, but I've had people from outside the state reach out to me specifically to try and help them and educate them on their rights with the federal protection.
Does it feel not a burden, but does it feel weird because like you're doing all this to help, yet you're not involved in it? Like you can only do so much because you're on the outside.
Yeah, well, I don't want to say it's weird, but I actually enjoy it.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I enjoy the research. I enjoy educating people on their rights. Lots of guys. I mean, I've told guys, look, I can't do it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I can educate you on what you're allowed to do. Because
Yeah.
I've had guys from Cisco reach out to me, and I've had multiple sit down with drivers from Cisco, and they had legitimate, actionable issues, but they got cold feet. I can't do it for you. I can help you, but if you choose not to do it, that's your responsibility.
Why do you think people would get cold feet? Is there a fear?
I believe so.
Why?
They're afraid of the retaliation.
Retaliation of who?
From the union and the company.
Well, you shouldn't be afraid of the union, right?
No, you shouldn't be, but I can almost assuredly. I don't want to get into too much detail, but I've had a couple of issues where they spoke to me and they weren't really happy with what we got accomplished.
You think there's inner politics happening?
Yes. But I don't. That's
right.
not,
Right.
I
No,
don't-
wait. We don't talk about that type of
And
stuff.
I don't.
because-
And
yes.
that's not my concern. My
Right.
concern is there's a problem. What can I do to fix that
it.
problem?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you understand too, like, without getting too deep into it, like, if they're not fixing it, there's a reason, and you coming in to fix that, like, you're causing turmoil within everything.
Yes, I am. And honestly, I really don't care.
Good.
I am elected by the members at the Irvine Distribution Center, the drivers that I've been elected to represent. My job is to help them.
Mm-hmm.
And collectively, all of the drivers. And if that ruffles a few feathers, I really don't care. I really don't.
How are you approaching? Because, like, the same way you said Cisco got cold feet, or people are getting cold feet in general, how are you going to be able to push for people to vote for you and not get cold feet and follow through with voting for you?
Because I'm actually doing and remedying situations that haven't been.
Mm.
Okay, so if I'm doing this now as a steward,
Imagine what I can do.
imagine what I can do, not only just for our guys, but for the masses of people who are not being represented right now.
And what is the position you're running for? What positions are there as well?
Well, I'm running for vice president.
Which is a big position, right?
Carlos is running as the secretary treasurer, which is the top position.
Secretary of Treasury is the highest position?
Yes.
Oh, that's weird. Is there what are those positions? So there's vice president,
And
secretary
then
of
you have
treasurer,
Wayne is
President.
president,
and vice president.
vice president. So only those three?
No, and Jesse is running
For
as well.
Yeah.
For what?
Court secretary.
Secretary.
Yeah.
And why is the treasurer the biggest one? Is it because of the finance? Because I would expect the president to be the highest one. But is it because of the finances? The treasury has the most.
Yeah,
power?
that overlooks
He handles the money.
money.
The money,
yeah.
right? Yeah. And so, okay, you're running for VP and you're running for secretary.
Recording secretary, yeah.
And what in as that position, what are you going to be in charge of?
My position's more. I'll be there on the local meetings that we have and stuff like that, and I keep track of like time and all that stuff, and basically everything that goes down at those particular meetings. And the reason I wanted to be more of something like that is because I wanted to stay actually at my trade. I wanted to stay at UPS and be a driver because I feel like I still want to lead my guys that I basically started my career with. I've been working with for the last 20 years, and a lot of them actually brought up things like that where they're like, hey, you're going to leave us if we vote you it. Like, there was real concern about it. But yeah, no, I told them like, no, man, I'm still, and I love my job, to be honest. I love.
What is it that you do at UPS?
I'm a UPS driver.
Which is the big box?
Yeah,
trucks?
the big box trucks. Yeah.
You need a B class license for that, right?
No, you regular class C.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Whoa, I didn't know that.
From what I've always heard, it was they still technically classify them as cars, like package cars.
Yeah.
Even though I drive like a 26 foot or whatever it is.
Interesting. I was working at Amazon for a while doing the sprinters, but I wasn't allowed to drive the box trucks because they needed a B class, at least for Amazon.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that could be their qualification or something like that. But yeah, mine's not huge. Like you're probably thinking of.
Yeah,
like,
I'm thinking about like the big.
Yeah,
ones
the
that carry
big. Yeah, no, we have ours is. I mean, I had a picture of one, but.
It's a little smaller than the.
Yeah,
the
it's smaller. Yeah.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yes. I know
Yeah,
what
it's
you're
got a
talking
little
about.
jump seat on the side and no doors on it, stuff like that. Yeah.
And so what you have a team that you lead?
Well, no, I'm just for my guys. So when in my center, when our old shop steward retired, they basically have to get a new shop steward in, and you're voted in.
What is
right?
a shop steward?
The shop stewards, what we were talking about. Basically, I represent. It's all. You can almost call me like a lawyer per se. You know, because my job is to help enforce the contract on the company when down on the ground, and then when I need help, that's when I call like your business agent and stuff like that, and the guys at the local, and I say, hey, we got a problem down here. The company's doing this. I filed a grievance on it, et cetera, et cetera. We need to get this sorted out. You know, and I'm at that same level. I can go into the management, talk to the boss, you know, per se, our center manager, and tell them exactly what is supposed to be, you know, like, hey, you guys are doing this wrong. This is not allowed per the contract, you know, article, you know, I can tell them the literature, and they can either stop it or file on it, you know. And usually we file on it just to keep a paper trail. That way, if 2 years down the road something happens again, I'm like, look, we've already discussed this. We sat down, you know, show them the old grievance, and then they got to stop, or they have to pay a penalty.
In the past, the shop stewardess, who would he would go to the manager, and then the manager would go to the union, or the shop stewardess would go automatically to the union?
Everything I file on the ground and the workforce, I then turn in a copy to my business agent or the local, and then they can all see that. The people that are running there, they can look at it, and then if it doesn't get resolved at that level, they'll take it to, you know, to panel and stuff like that.
And a business agent is just a mediator between you guys. That's kind of like conversating for.
Well, he's the one that deals with the company at the higher level. So me and my center manager, we try to sort out our problems there. But if he's being told by his boss, like, hey, no, we're going to do it this way, we don't care, we can't resolve it, and then that's when the business agent, who's above me, you know, sometimes they'll take over my grievance, you know, or my concern, or the employee's concern, and then they'll take it up to the other level with the people upstairs and then try to sort that out.
And so you becoming secretary of the union, you'd be able to kind of slash through that and be able to mitigate both sides, right? Because you're the stewardess and the union secretary?
Well, yeah, so that's the thing. If I'm working with, you know, Mike and Wayne and Carlos and stuff like that, all of our opinions collectively are going to be, you know, put into the big, you know, into the glass, because at the same time, I don't know exactly what goes on at Mike's yard, or I don't know what, you know, even Wayne works at Anaheim. I don't know what's going on over there, but we all have ideas, or we've solved problems, for instance, and then we can collectively communicate to educate all the members. That way, because knowledge is power. So if everyone knows what's going on, you know, it's easier to get things resolved, you know, because sometimes just writing a piece of paper and putting a name on it and a problem, you know, it can just get filed away, and then, you know, the member is still upset, the problem's not resolved, and then it could take months. The company can kind of drag it out.
That thing you just said, knowledge is power. Is there a lot of gatekeeping that is happening?
I believe, I believe a lot of people don't know what their actual rights are, you know, and if I feel like an uneducated member is kind of what's been going on right now. Like, it's like, oh, we'll handle it, or, you know, and people, it's kind of sad, you know, you have to go and represent, you tell someone like, no, this is not how it works, you know, and they're like, they look confused at you, you know, they're like, what do you mean? Yeah. So that's another thing. A lot of the new guys that are coming, because we're getting a lot of, let's be real, there's a lot of younger kids coming up now, and they really don't know what's going on. They just jump in, and work is just,
they're like, fuck it, I get my paycheck,
exactly,
do what I'm told to do.
Exactly. And then it's not until you've been in for a while, and then something's happening to you, and then, you know, a guy like me, Mike or Wayne or Carlos comes in and tells you like, hey, that's not supposed to be going on. And they're like, what do you mean? They've been doing that to me, you know, like, that's not how things work, you know. And I feel like there's a lot of that now. And I learned, like I said, when I came in, there was a lot of older guys, or no, I shouldn't say old, but the guys that had been there for a lot more years, you know, and I just learned from those guys. Everything they did, the way they talked, the way they communicated, everything. And I want to see more of that, to be honest.
When you said that right now, like the younger guys, and then you tell them like, hey, this is not how it's done, the first emotion I felt for me is resentment. You not have that? Like, do you have that in you? Like a feeling of resentment?
No, it's I think it sucks when these guys just don't know, but no, I'm there to help all them guys. You know what I mean? I want everyone to be on the same level. I want them to have the same career I'm currently having, you know, and know that they can get through this job without being harassed by the company and stuff like that. But I don't ever try to make anyone look, you know, dumb. But it's, like I said, the more they know, they'll, just like this coming up, it's an election year, and everyone needs to know, you know, that they need to go out there and vote. And if you don't like what's going on now, then, I mean, we're giving you options to vote for someone else, or someone that has helped you, you know?
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things for me, too, is, like, kind of, your world ties into, like, the outside world, where, like, I hate people who get taken advantage of by law enforcement who don't know their rights. Yeah. And, like, that pisses me off so much.
Yeah.
And it's, like, I could see, like, why you want to do this, because that would piss me the fuck off seeing like my worker getting taken advantage of.
Correct.
When it's like, dog, it's not supposed to be like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so, what have you seen that made you want to do this? Like, what can you give me some stories of like things you've seen?
There's a, I mean,
What's something that
we could sit here for hours, but there was an instance where I was fighting with a few things that probably ruffled people's feathers too. Was we had a driver come back from driving the big trucks, the feeder trucks, and he had an ADA. He had an issue when he went driving.
What is an ADA?
It's American Disabilities Act.
Americans with Disabilities Act.
Oh, he had
Yeah.
okay. He had
Yeah,
an
like an-
American
yeah.
Disability Act. Okay, gotcha.
So, and his problem was, it was only there when he was in feeder. I guess because of the hours or something. It could have been. I mean, it could be a number of things. I don't want. It's personal, obviously. But he had that, and in the past, you'd have guys come back to their route because unless you get a bid route in feeder, you would essentially lose your package car route. So it's like a set. But if you didn't have a bid, your package car route was still there. It was yours. But utility, we have utility guys that fill in, and they would cover it. And you would come back and you would retain your seniority because reality is seniority is pretty much at UPS. That's what we have. We walk around with our seniority. You know what I mean? That my seniority is because I want to work. I get that work first. I get to choose overtime, my vacation, everything. And basically, some of the current people, they felt that wasn't right. That he shouldn't come back and have his seniority. That he should go to the bottom. So you're telling a guy that's been there, 20 years, and in the past it's happened to everyone. Not everyone, and I get it. They don't want to set a thing for people just like, hey, I give up. I want to go back. Because we need feeder drivers. Mm-hmm. But if he has an actual disability, I mean, I understand why he's coming back. And they didn't allow it, so I filed grievances on it, and basically it kind of just got pulled. It got withdrawn, and they didn't really tell the guy why. So they didn't stand up for him. They didn't want to stand. They don't want to take his case. They just basically told him.
And you're seeing this.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then I had to sit and try to argue with those guys, and we filed grievances. We had a meeting with labor and stuff like that, and we pled his case. And we told them. I showed examples of how it happened in the past. I knew drivers that had done it, and basically gave them evidence. And I don't know what happened, but it was weird. Like 3 weeks later, and I don't know if labor and the union met or something, but I don't know if they made a deal or whatever happened, but it basically just got pulled away, and we couldn't really even do anything, just argue with them. And now we just butt heads and stuff like that. So there's a lot of little incidents. That's one small
that's
thing.
one of many things.
But there's other stuff I think that goes on, contractual stuff where they eliminate. We have, for instance, like we had shuttles we got guys that run shuttles, and usually they're full-time, they're bid full-time guys, and then I was told, then they started using part-time guys to fill those shuttles. And we're like, why was a part-timer?
Because they get paid less?
Yeah, exactly. They get paid less. And I go, why are we using a part-timer? Someone's getting shorted that pay. And I brought that up, and they were like, oh, they're allowed to do that. I go, no, they're not. I go, the whole reason we made those routes, bid routes for full-timers, was because in the past the part-timers were running them, and so we turned them into real routes. And then I go, why we even have them? And they gave me the runaround about that too. I went and actually talked to one of the other managers, and they believed me. They were like, yeah, you're right. I mean, but they're allowing me to do it. It doesn't happen anymore though.
Okay.
Yeah, it stopped. That stopped. But it's just stuff like that.
And so, Michael, right? For you, was your turning point your turning point of wanting to get part of the union, was that when the whole OSHA with Safeway and the citation marks? Is that when you decided like, hey, I need to make a change? Or what was your turning point when you were like, I think I want to do this?
No, I wanted to get involved once I found out that the law had been around since 1982 that was protecting us, and nobody was doing anything about it.
And we're talking about the same one with the citation marks, right? With the
right.
Using
That federal protection had been around since 1982. It had been through the court system. It had been challenged. It had been adjudicated. It had been appealed, and it's not going anywhere. If it was going to be overturned or removed, it obviously would have been done so by now.
Right. But what I'm asking though is like, can you remember the moment in time when you were like, were you at home reading the
No, it was
laws?
as far as getting involved was when the female driver that was violated and suspended came to me, and I asked her earlier, I said, what do you want to do?
Mm-hmm.
And she says, I want to file a grievance on it. And I said, okay, fine. So let me start doing some research. And when I started researching for her grievance is when I started finding all this information that even as a 30-year driver prior to that, because I've held my commercial license for over 41 years, I was oblivious to those protections myself. I didn't know they existed.
Really?
Absolutely.
How is that
And
possible?
so, and when you're not looking for something,
Right.
and
I see what you're
it
saying.
steps up,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden it was like an eye-opening experience.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I was like, the more I went down that rabbit hole, the more protections, and that one single protection is not only for points. There are a whole litany of protections that are associated with that one federal regulation. Okay, it's not just only being sick or only being fatigued. There's a laundry list of other protections that fall under and are encompassed in that one code. And so when she wanted to file agreements, I started reading it, and the more I started educating, because education is power. Okay, I started reading, and I was like, wow, this has been going on for so long. And then you start doing other research, and you start finding other cases. And the actual Safeway case, that was from 1999, was actually sent to me from an attorney. Had that information. And the arbitration win, that's not something I had access to. That was something that somebody sent me. And then you start assembling all your evidence. And I had a book almost 2 inches thick for her individual case that we filed with OSHA, which allowed us to win. But it was the eye-opening moment where I wanted to become immersed and involved in it was when she was suspended.
I'm so confused. I feel like it all comes back to the same thing we don't want to talk about, but how is this being allowed to happen when we've had a history of, like you're saying, like you're finding all this history, like, but this is what,
companies will do whatever they want to do regardless of the laws or the regulations. They do whatever they want to do until they're forced to stop. It doesn't matter. It could be a small company. It could be, a multi-billion-dollar nationwide conglomerate like the company I work for.
yes,
They do whatever they want to do until somebody forces them to stop.
which is the union, right? This is where the union comes in.
No, the union didn't do this.
No, but they're supposed to.
They're supposed. They should be involved. Let me just put it that
They
way.
need to be involved.
They need to be involved. They should be involved.
Yeah. It's not a matter of.
no.
It's-
It's
this is why
it's
you're
almost
here.
to me. It's almost like a moral issue.
Right.
As members, we pay union dues.
Right. Yeah. And you're
For representation.
Right, exactly. You're paying money.
We're paying money for a service.
Yes.
It's okay, and the service is representation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and when you're not receiving, it's like any other business you pay money to for a service, whether it's your cell phone or
Yeah.
your TV. If you're not receiving the service you think you deserve, you're going to change it.
Yeah.
Change it, yeah.
Okay, and so
Oh, that's good.
That's
I
why
like that. I like that. I like that.
that's
was good.
why
That
we're
clicks in my head a little better. Yeah, I like that.
doing what we're doing, because we feel we can offer a better service
I see.
Yeah.
to the members than they are actually receiving at this point. Okay,
That was good. I like that. That clicked in my head a little better.
and part of that, I mean, we all have our areas of expertise. Okay, and mine is trucking, and we have a really significant amount of drivers that are represented by our local. I don't know the exact number, but it's probably give or take somewhere around the 40% range.
Mm-hmm.
That's thousands of members that if I had the power, or we are elected had the power and the authority to do for them what myself and another driver without any union
Yeah,
representation
without it. Yeah.
did on our own. Okay, now, yeah, it took, more than a decade to get it done, but that shows you what kind of person I am what our group is like, what our slate is. We're dedicated no matter what to a certain outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can do that as an individual with no power and no authority, with the backing of Carlos and Wayne and Jesse, and we can do all this together, we can benefit thousands of other members only in this one particular segment, not to mention what they could do for all the warehouse workers or the mechanics or the maintenance people or the other trades that are represented by the local, because each one of them, each member has their own area of expertise, and collaboratively, like Jesse said earlier, we want to work together. It's not going to be, a kingship and then a bunch of pawns.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to work together to benefit the members as a whole.
A decade?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, well, from
crazy.
2004, like I said, 2004, and I started complaining about it until we got our ruling was in July of 22. So do the math on that. Total involvement.
17, 18?
Yeah, total involvement. All in.
Jesus
With no help from anybody.
Christ.
Yeah, that's dedication, huh?
That's crazy.
Yeah, you tell me another steward who's done that.
I mean, can't even name you a name.
I had a couple of 40-plus years guys that approached me after we got the ruling and it was actually made public. They never heard of such a thing.
Mm-hmm.
They said they never heard of anybody or any steward, let alone a steward, getting something like that accomplished with no help from nobody. Like I said, no help from anybody. It's just hard work, dedication to fixing and righting a wrong that had been perpetuated for decades and decades, and we got it fixed.
And so
for a small number of people. But
right,
now, like I said, if we're fortunate enough to get voted in, all that knowledge and expertise can be used to benefit thousands more.
Right. Wait, why is that?
Because there are thousands of members at that local that
Local 952.
952.
correct.
Okay, can you break that down a little bit for me? What is this whole local with numbers? Like local 953, local 954, or is it not like that's not like incremental?
It's all just different areas for the most part.
So what is the area of local 952?
They cover different, there's grocery, there's, we got the UPS, we got linen.
Orange County.
Yeah, like Orange County.
Wait, so does local mean like what you do, like groceries and trucking, or is it a city-based
It's a jurisdiction.
Yeah,
A
there you go,
jurisdiction.
jurisdiction, there you go.
And what is the jurisdiction? You said
For Orange County.
Orange County.
all of Orange County.
Right.
Okay.
I think we have some outside of Orange County. I think it's Orange. Technically, I think it's Orange County and vicinity.
Vicinity.
Okay.
I don't know where vicinity is. It's kind of like a
Vicinity would be so like a surrounding area.
surrounding.
Yeah.
Okay, and you said right now because you couldn't. You said you could only do it for like a few hundred workers with UPass, right?
Correct. The people that I directly.
Where was that in? Was that like a city that you did, like a small city?
No, that was the Albertsons and Vaughn's truck drivers.
Just for one Albertsons location or the whole company?
No, the whole company.
And so
we have over 500 truck drivers
Uh-huh.
at Albertsons.
and you're saying if you get into local 952, you can
Correct.
implement that same thing for all of Orange County.
Correct, and I already have a strategy on how to accomplish that.
Are you allowed to say your strategy online without?
I
giving too
wouldn't
much
want to
away?
share that because the other slates may try and try and utilize. That's proprietary information.
Right.
But I definitely have a concrete plan on how to implement what we've already accomplished and have already implemented to move forward with everybody else.
And so if you get voted in as vice president, first of all, what are your duties and roles as that? And why do you think you're best fit for that?
Well, duties, like I said, our duties and roles, Carlos and Wayne have designated that we're going to be utilized in our areas of expertise.
Okay, so you're kind of like getting away from titles. Like, yeah, you can have a title, but you're like, we're not really.
Yeah,
really
I'm not locked into only one lane.
Got you.
Okay, like I said, my area of expertise is trucking.
Yes.
You know, you have Carlos in the warehouse. Wayne is also
Package car drivers as well.
package car driver,
Yeah.
but they have their areas, but collectively, it's not going to be secretary treasurer here. He's only going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
President is only going to do this. My position is only going to do this. Jesse's position is only going to do this.
Right.
We're going to work as a group,
Yeah.
collectively. If we have a problem, we're going to hash it out and try and come up with the best method to make that problem go away or to remedy that problem, instead of just having, you know,
Right.
one person.
One lane people.
There you go.
Yeah.
One person who's gonna come down and say, nope,
Yeah.
I'm in charge. This is it.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
No.
And so, is it rare or is it common for people to run together collectively? Like how you have Carlos and Wayne running with you guys all together? Or do people usually just go individually and not really tie in with a team?
There's usually a collective amount of people, but you can run independent.
Independent, right,
Yeah.
right. But is it more common to have a team?
Yeah, it's a slate.
Slate, yeah. To run a slate.
And so, what were to happen if, let's say, 3 out of your 4 people make it to the voting, actually get voted in? Does that throw off anything on your guys' agendas? Because you, like, let's
No,
say
it's
you
not.
can win the vice president, but then you could lose the secretary position, right?
Well,
It's not like everybody all gets voted in together, right?
Well, if they vote for the slate per se, that's mainly that'll probably be. I can't predict the future, but when we're going to the ballots, it'll probably be the current administration. It'll be us.
Oh, so slates.
Yeah.
When you say slates, you mean like groups.
Groups of people.
Got you. Okay, got you.
So when you vote for, say, Solidarity Slate.
Slate. Okay,
you'll-
I understand. Oh,
You're
got you.
you're voting for what we're talking about currently.
So
you know?
solidarity is your team name
Yeah,
in
it's
a
our
way. In
correct.
a way.
Yes, exactly.
Why
So-
solidarity? What does that mean?
Solidarity
Well,
means you're working together as
yeah.
a unit.
Oh, is that what the? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Collectively, you're working together to move forward as a group, as opposed to a bunch of individuals.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
good.
When you're solidified or your solidarity, you're together,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
form
that's what
of,
we're working for.
what is the term when you have 2 horses that pull some synergy? A form of synergy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when you're united, you're stronger, right?
Yeah.
You know, when we're all together, we're stronger. If we're divided, then they'll just pick us apart. So, it's
How many slates are there right now running for the positions?
I don't know. There's probably another one. There's probably, I would imagine, the current admin, and then
For
there's-
sure, for sure the
for
current-
sure. Yeah, I'd imagine. Yeah, them.
guys.
There's us, and then there'll probably be another one. I'd imagine. I think there's another group of guys that probably think, and that's their
They
right.
haven't really-
You know?
have they put anything out officially of their entire slate, or just the top 2 guys?
I think it's only actually the top 2 guys. Yeah, I don't think I've heard.
Yeah,
of
I don't know that. I don't
Yeah.
know that the last one is.
It would
Yeah.
be good to know who you're running against too, right? Like other slates, because that's a form of like, okay, what are they pushing, and how can we better push whatever they or integrate stuff like that. No.
Kind of. I mean, we know what. That's the good thing about when you've been somewhere for a long time. People kind of know what everyone's about for the most
Oh,
part.
really?
Yeah, your work ethic, everything. And what's, like I said earlier, what you do for people. And I feel comfortable that there's a lot of guys that they'll call me like the same thing. Anytime at night or after work or the early morning. I've had people text me at 5:00 in the morning. I'm usually up early anyway, but I'll send them a text back and they'll be like, I'm like, I'll look into that as soon as I get to work, and I'll talk to whoever something happened, or even if something happens at work late at night, they'll call me and they're like, hey man, this happened right now. It's 8. What do you want me to do? And I go, well, I'll figure it out for you real quick, and I'll give you a call right back. So
For the UPS, do you work in Orange County?
yeah, my route's out in Costa Mesa.
You work in Orange County as well with Albertsons,
Correct. Our DC is in Irvine.
and you have in order to be part of that local 952, do you have to work in that to be able to run for local 952, or could someone that works in Bakersfield run for 952 as well?
No, you wouldn't be represented by local 952 if you were in Bakersfield.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. I see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you'd have a different local.
You'd
out
have a
there.
different local representing you. Like prior to our merger, the Vaughn's truck drivers were represented by local 848.
Mhm.
That was in the Long Beach area.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have, jurisdictional lines like you have city boundaries. The locals also have boundaries, and each boundary is represented by a different local.
I was going through your Instagram a little bit, and I think Sal had actually invited me. You guys, the way, I'm guessing this is one method you guys are pushing to get voted for, right? Is you guys are throwing events?
Yeah.
Or how do you get word out to like?
And that's what it is.
To get
yeah.
to know you.
Correct. Yeah. And we want people to come out. We're holding events because we're going to be there, and we want people to come ask questions. We want people to ask us. We want to be held accountable for what we're saying. I want you to come out and say, hey, what are you going to do about this, or this? And I want, face-to-face conversation, and, try to have some dinner over it on a more casual level.
Is there like is it more of a, like, let's say we go to Denny's, not Denny's, but like whatever, we go to a restaurant. Is it more of a face-to-face, like I get to meet you, or is it a Q&A where there's a stage and people get to come up and ask questions so everybody can hear?
It's going to be, we'll probably go up on stage we did last time. And then,
you guys did do this
yeah,
already.
And as we walked out, we talked to people, and after we, just introduced ourselves and stuff like that. And yeah, you can meet us, and I'll talk to anyone, you know what I mean? I'll let you know what's going on. You can pick my brain and ask me about what I do, because some people don't know what it's like being a UPS driver. I don't know what it's like, working inside a Albertsons warehouse or even driving a truck for them.
Okay, sticking with this, you were both at the last event, right?
Correct.
Correct. When you guys did the Q&A on stage, what are one question for both of you that stood out that you think people are talking about that you think should be answered?
For me, I think a lot of it is what they asked me was like, how would I change the atmosphere?
That's big. Culture, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That was probably the biggest.
What do you think?
You have the individual ones, like I said, they know that I'm a truck driver.
Yeah,
I drive the big
yeah.
rigs. So I received a lot of questions and, talk about that, but probably the most important one was the culture question.
What do you think they believe the atmosphere is like?
Well, I don't like putting words in anybody's mouth or speculating,
but
because
saying,
I'm more of a, a facts guy.
Right.
But from me personally, the atmosphere currently is that if you're not with them, you're against them. You don't feel like you're freely able to express contrary views on things, as they may have a view about certain things. If I want to, or currently choose to express a different point of view, you feel almost threatened. Okay, and that is something that, as Solidarity, that we want to change. We want to make it more of a wholesome atmosphere where everybody is free to express whatever kind of questions they want, whatever. If they feel something should be going in a different direction, they can offer their opinions without the fear of being threatened or feeling threatened. Mm-hmm. It's more open. When I was at 848, when we were at the 848 before the merger, one thing I did notice was at the meetings, a lot of times you had the members were showing up with their wives. Some of them were showing up with their kids. And it was a really inviting, wholesome atmosphere. Mm-hmm. And Wayne and Carlos have expressed the desire to bring that atmosphere back.
Yeah.
So you don't have guys standing around, afraid to open their mouth. Mm-hmm. A lot of guys get into, like I said, some of the guys in the trucking end, you can help them, but you can't force them because they're afraid. Mm-hmm. Well, I think there's a significant number of guys that choose not to go to the local, to all of the meetings, because they are either afraid or feel intimidated and don't feel like they can express their feelings openly. And so that's not a good culture. That's something that we want to change.
Yeah.
The word afraid keeps getting tossed around a lot. How votes are unanimous, right? As in, like, if someone's going to vote for you, their name won't pop up that said that they voted for you, right?
Yeah, anonymously.
Right.
Yeah,
Correct.
And so how are you kind of approaching that and helping people be like, don't be afraid to vote on my behalf, in case I lose, there's no repercussion on your behalf. Because if you're not with them, you're against them, right? And if word gets out that they voted against them, isn't there a fear of them being like, I don't want to risk a vote on you guys because what if the administration gets revoted in again and then they find out that I voted for you guys?
That's a good one. I wouldn't even care, to be honest. They shouldn't. I mean, they have the right to vote, and just because they feel they voted for someone else, I mean, I'm not going to judge them any differently. I mean, I could have guys that I probably know, and if they don't want to vote, that's fine. But at the end of the day, they decide collectively. We decide who's going to take over, and we'll have to live with that result.
I guess let me put you in a scenario then. Let's say you want me to vote for you, right?
Yeah.
But I'm coming up to you and be like, bro, I'm afraid to vote for you. Like, I don't want them to find out that I'm gonna vote for you because if you don't win, then they're gonna fuck me over because they figured that out. Like, how would you try to tell? Like, how would you comfort me to be like, bro, don't be afraid?
Oh, I'll tell you, say, hey man, I go, it's like anything else in this world. Like, we can get into politics, stuff like that. I go, but we pay for them to be there. We're the ones on the ground doing the actual physical labor work. Our dues, pay their salaries. We need to hold them accountable. I go, you're a union member. You shouldn't be afraid. I go, you don't need to be afraid. You should vote for who you want to vote for. They're not, people I think that's something they kind of instilled in people, that there is going to be some type of retaliation, or maybe they look at you differently or whatever. I go, that's fine. At least you stood up for what you think was better, and that's your right. You should be able to do that, I think. And there's many of us, right? There's a lot of us out there.
Yeah, well, that's what you're talking about is already going on. I mean, I know lots of guys personally that even though I solved multiple problems that nobody else would ever address, they still didn't vote for me. So I already know that. I mean, this is a perfect situation. The years we spent working to remedy an illegal attendance policy, after we got it fixed, they still didn't vote for me. And not only did they not vote for me, some of them were backstabbing me at the same time, saying they didn't like it. So how is it that you're supposed to be a Teamster and part of a labor movement, and you're advocating for the company against other Teamsters? How is that possible? So you don't like the fact, so by disagreeing, you're actually saying it's okay for the company to break the law. So if it's okay to break that law, what's the next law you're going to allow them to break? Or are you going to allow them to, since we have a maximum gross weight we're allowed to carry, 80,000 pounds or 40 tons, well, you're not, Mike, you know what? You're not crossing the scale today, so go ahead and take 90,000 pounds out of the yard. It's illegal. It's breaking the law. Well, you just said, we can't do that. Well, you just advocated for them to allow them to break the law on discipline you when you're sick.
Yeah.
Or, you know what? You have a headlight that's out, but you're not driving at night. Well, go ahead and take the truck. You'll be back before dark. We'll fix it later. Well, that's another DOT violation.
Yeah.
So, what laws are you going to allow them to continue to break? Are you going to pick and choose what laws are followed and pick and choose what laws are not followed? So, I already go through that. And another thing that we got done, they had a whole host of labor code violations they were committing against the drivers. And again, I assembled a team of guys, and we filed a class action lawsuit, and we won $2.5 million for our drivers. They all got a check. They all cashed it. And then they complained about that too. So I go through that already. I've got concrete stuff that I've accomplished as a nobody, as a driver. Yeah, I'm a shop steward, but this had nothing to do with being a shop steward. Yeah. This wasn't contractual stuff. This was legal stuff. Laws are being violated. And I stood up. I assembled guys. I did all the research. And we won. I did this as a nobody, just as a rank and file driver. And then even after we got these things done for they still didn't vote for me.
That's such a weird.
Right? You would think, right?
In my head, the way I would approach it, I'm very tactical, so in my head, I would already be thinking in your position, like, what am I doing something wrong? Or what can I do differently now to get them to vote for me? Because you don't have an answer, right, on why they're not voting for you. Unless you do.
No.
Right,
I mean, anybody can vote for whoever they want to vote for.
Of course,
If
yes.
they feel they're being, their voices are being heard and they're being represented in the way that they feel they need to be represented, more power to you. But don't throw rocks at me when I put a bullseye on my back for more than a decade and got hard issues fixed and remedies were done, and you don't like them. Well, you know what? If you don't like it, then how about you go up to HR and you relinquish your rights under those protections. If you're that passionate about your conviction of how you feel, then go up to HR and you can have and relinquish those rights. Or better yet, I'll have one of my attorneys draw up a letter relinquishing those rights, and you can sign it and we'll go up there together. Okay? And you can relinquish those rights and get all the attendance points you want. Okay? Or if you don't like that I think most guys got, give or take, a couple $2,000+ out of that class by the time the attorneys got their legal fees. But still, we had over 300 of those guys were retirees that got checks. Okay? And I still got guys bitching about that. Well, if you don't like it, why did you cash the check?
Yeah, why'd you cash the check? Yeah.
Why don't you give the money back? Donate it to your favorite charity. Donate it to your church. They'll take the money if you feel that way. I don't hear anybody complaining. I don't hear any of those guys wanting to give the money back. Oh, you know what, Mike? I don't like that. So here's my $3,000 back. Or I think the Albertsons guys actually, a lot of the Albertsons guys, I think actually got over $4,000. So donate that money back. Okay? Because it was the amount of money you got was based on hours worked and years worked during the violation period. So the Albertsons guys were there longer. So the majority of the Albertsons guys got more than the Vons guys.
Still, that's crazy.
Okay. So, they're all moaning and complaining about it. I shouldn't say all. There's a significant number that are. A lot of guys are happy. Most guys are happy. However, it makes no sense to me as a union member. Why are you advocating to allow the company to violate another union member? Makes no sense. Yeah. You should be happy that we got these issues fixed. But you're not. You're contrary about it. However, all the time you're complaining about it, you're offering no solution.
Yeah.
No solution. You're just making noise to make noise. If you have a difference of opinion, go ahead and express it. Express how you would handle it. Okay? It's not a contractual issue. It's a labor code issue. It's nothing in the contract about labor codes. Okay? And the other is a DOT issue. It's a federal transportation issue. That's not in our contract. So if you're saying it's a contractual issue, you're not arguing, why don't you allow the union to do it? The union had more than enough opportunity to be involved. They chose not to be involved. So if you file the grievance goes nowhere. What are you supposed to do? You either fight for what's right or you take it. I choose to fight. Now, if you don't like it, relinquish your rights. We can facilitate that. Like I said, I can have documents drawn up. Probably pretty cheap. I don't think my attorney would charge me that much. We can have documents drawn up, and you can relinquish all your rights. But I guarantee you nobody will. They're going to enjoy the benefits that we've fought for and then complain about it after the fact.
I think a lot of the times how you're saying like knowledge is power, and I think with this podcast the stories will get out there. But do you think sometimes it's just these people who are voting just don't know the truth, like, or they just don't even understand what is happening, and they sometimes just vote for the incumbent, the person who was already in power? They're
Well,
like,
I think
"Fuck it."
honestly, I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Personally,
Yeah.
they're not educated, and I don't expect everybody to read the contract word for word.
Right.
There's a
yeah,
lot
yeah,
in
that's
there,
insane for people
and
to
there's
do
a
that.
lot of nuances, and there's also side letters that you may not know about. That could be side letters that aren't in the contract. Handshake deals, but a lot of it is they don't know.
Mhm.
They're not educated, and it's kind of like the whole peer pressure thing. Think back when you were in high school.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
you
I
had the
know.
different cliques in a high
Yeah.
school. You know, you were this clique, or you were in that group, or you're that, and then the people in those groups, you had a hierarchy in those groups,
Yeah.
and so a lot of it is peer pressure.
Yeah.
You know, and especially some of the younger guys. Now the older guys, they don't care. Okay, but the younger guys, everybody has an opportunity to vote, and we're not going to get in there unless everybody participates. People need to participate and exercise their right to vote. If you don't like what's going on, the only way to change it is to vote. Otherwise, you're going to get the same results that you currently have, which is no different than any city election. You always hear people complaining about their local government or their state government or the national government, but they keep voting the same people in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the problem stays the same. The faces may change, but the problems are consistent. And the only way to really change and try and fix a problem is to put somebody else in there who has a different point of view,
Yeah.
or maybe a different way of going about
things.
getting that accomplished.
And I see that you guys are doing the podcast, of course, to push, and your events like the dinners and all that.
Yeah.
And you won't know until the vote is done that you'll see if the results worked. But do you guys feel like this is working, like getting attention? Or you feel like you guys are garnering enough attention for people to understand the stories and what is happening to vote for your slate?
Yeah, because as things like every day at work, something happens or something like that, and then when people don't see results or things are their lives, when you disrupt their lives, and even at their workplace, and people start opening up their eyes a little bit and listening a little bit more, and then you have the events, we do podcasts, they listen and they can relate, because I'm doing the job they're doing, these are all people I work with and stuff like that. But yeah, it brings awareness, and that's the key. You gotta wake everyone up to, hey man, I know I get it. We're working 50 hours a week, or you're working from 9 to 7 o'clock at night, and I get it. You want to get off, you want to take a shower, you go see your family, have dinner. But you got to be aware of what's going on, because if we just keep a blind eye to it, you got 3 more years of the same thing, and then you're miserable, or your headaches aren't fixed. So there's a lot of people waking up because they're curious. They can't wait to vote. They're like, we need to do something. So that's what I've been hearing. Hopefully the event turns out better. It's on May 4th, but yeah, we're gonna spread as much word as we can.
And how did you get involved with working for UPS? Like, how did that go about? Like, kind of your beginnings?
Actually, it started off as a part-time job right out of high school.
Yeah, a lot of my friends did that too.
Yeah.
Right out of high school, UPS.
It's a quick little job, but I was gonna do it while I went to school, because you could work at 3 in the morning
So
and
everybody
load
says
trucks.
something, you're like, I'll do this just for now.
Exactly, for now. And then 23 years later, they threw me in a package car right away when I was like 21, and I've been driving for like 20 years now.
You enjoy it?
And I love it. I love it. Yeah, I love it. Where I drive, I have never even been out there before.
Uh-huh.
I'm up in Costa Mesa by South Coast Plaza. I had never been to South Coast Plaza in my life. I'm looking at these stores, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, all that. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And what people, it was a whole nother life. Then you go out to like Newport Coast down by the beach and stuff like that, and you're seeing these mansions, and these people. It's crazy. I love it. But and you're out in this weather,
In
California.
the weather, yeah.
The weather. It's a physical job. I love, and the company's always going to try to, get as much as they can out of you. But the reality is, I get paid good. I love my job. I'm my own boss once I'm out on road, for the most part, per se. You just get your work done. But yeah, I love it.
And there was a transition, right, where UPS actually workers got like an increase. Like I know there was like a lot of memes going on, like you see a UPS worker coming in with like blinged out chains and all that.
Yeah, that was when we were negotiating the last contract, and that's kind of what we talked about a little bit earlier. Some people wanted the money up front, and I mean, for the most part, I guess they want to call it a historic contract, but after the cost of living increase and stuff like that, we just kind of caught up a little bit. I mean, like we said, we could sit here and say it could always be better, right? Could always be better. But as long as my main concern was, as long as we sprinkled some of that negotiation across the board for all of us, our pensions was always one of the biggest things. I don't think we really got much to that. That was a big issue. But yeah, we've always made pretty good money, I'd like to say, and that's why I'm still there. And at the end of the road, there is a pension. But yeah, the whole all that other stuff, that was them adding up all of our like benefits and
I see.
Yeah, they made it sound a lot. A lot. Yeah.
And so I like to believe sometimes like who you are now, no matter what the age, it kind of is a reflection of how you were growing up. And so were you always like a person, like a big brother, like growing up, like that liked to help people? Because you're in a position of power where like it's getting magnified, like you wanting to help people. Like you're in this position for a reason. Like growing up, were you always like that?
Yeah, I grew up. I had to grow up fast. My parents they made me do everything. You know what I mean? But I have two other siblings. I know my older sister and my younger brother. But yeah, I was the one always helping my dad, and then he kind of was that person, always helping someone, and then that's how I kind of transitioned to that. And then I was always hands on. I wanted to learn how things work, and that's how it all kind of started. But my biggest thing is where I'm at now is I like all my brothers and sisters that I help, that I work with. I like their problems being fixed because there's no greater feeling when someone comes to you with a problem and I can go in there and figure it out for the man, like something maybe they don't have the guts to go up there and tell dispatch, hey man, you guys are doing, I don't have time to do this and this and that, and I can go in there and basically tell them you guys are screwed, and I go over someone and I can justify it, because we have numbers for everything, nowadays. But and then you see them next week or something, they're like, dude, like my life is way better. I get off the time I want to get off. I go see my wife, my kids, have dinner. I'm not exhausted. They were killing me, they were putting too much. And it's a good feeling, and you see them every once in a while on the road, and then they give you, they say what's up, and then I know they have a better life. I don't need to talk to them every day, but they know when they have a problem they can come, and that's a good feeling to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you? You same way? Were you always kind of like taking care of people growing up? The kind of like how right now you're in this position of power where you're gonna help people. Is like growing up, were you always like kind of like a big brother type stuff like that?
I don't know if it was always like that. It kind of it got like that once I started working in my family's business.
Oh yeah, you didn't really dive too deep into that. What was the family business?
So my family had a petroleum construction business in New Orleans when my grandfather actually started it in the 50s. I started working there and learning the business part-time when I was 15 in the summers.
Damn.
And I worked there, moved back to New Orleans because I was out here in California, and I would go back in the summer and work in the business. And we did built and demolished gas stations and did underground tanks, the piping, removed hazardous and non-hazardous soil, demolition. And we had all of our own equipment, excavators, bobcats, dump trucks, trailers. We had all our own stuff. And I got my license when I was 21. And I worked in that family business until I was 36. And
so you've always had like people you were like coworkers with, even though they're
right.
family.
Well,
I
as I was learning and I learned the business more and more, then it was my two uncles, my father, me, my stepmother, an aunt in the office. My stepmom and my aunt were in the office, and then our crew. It fluctuated based on how busy we were. 3 to 5 guys. So it was a small business, and that wasn't a giant business. But we were always busy. And around it, especially in the 80s, they had a lot of Superfund money around from the federal government for a lot of hazardous cleanup that was going on in the United States back then. And so when we had the other crew guys, you know, a lot of them didn't have the experience that I had growing up in it. So working on them, overseeing them, helping them, it kind of just moved on. And then I was involved in sports and baseball and all that stuff. And I was more of an outspoken person.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not a big guy, I was always outspoken. And that translated into when I got hired on here, guys were like, at Vaughn's, I've been, like I said, I was hired into the union in 2002. I didn't get into Vaughn's until 2004. And guys, you know, I'd expressed my views, and guys, oh, Mike, why don't you run for shop steward? And I go, I don't have enough knowledge to run as a shop steward yet. Maybe when I get to 10 years or so, and I have a little bit more experience, I'll think about it. Well, then once I got to 10 years, and the guys were like, you need to run for shop steward. So I finally did run, and I was elected, and give or take now, I've been a steward for 10 years or so. I don't remember exactly when I became a steward, but it's been something somewhere around that number. And I've always enjoyed learning. The biggest mistake I ever made in life was going to college for 4 years and not graduate. I regret that to this day. I majored in speech, and fortunately enough, I am, you know, influenced my daughters. I had a long talk with them. I have 2 daughters. Both are graduated from college. One's in veterinary medical school right now. And I told them, don't make the mistake that I made. I regret that, not finishing, even though I had like 1 year to graduate. I never went back. It was terrible. Bad decision on my part. Terrible decision. And, you know, educating guys on the contract and what their rights are, what laws also protect them. I enjoy that to this day. And if I can help more people than we've already been able to successfully benefit, I want to continue to do that. That's why I'm part of this Solidarity Slate.
I think I could relate to that a little bit. Where like a lot of these jobs that you guys are talking about, like the UPS and the Albertsons, like the truck driving business and being a driver right out of high school, is like a lot of these people don't get college degrees. Like if we're just straight out of high school, a lot of people don't get diplomas. They're entry level jobs that don't require a lot of skill.
Yeah.
And the sad part is like me, like when I was younger, like 19, when I was getting my entry level jobs, I didn't want to learn. Like I didn't care about doing all that. I just wanted the quick paycheck, or I just wanted to have a job. You know, like I felt cared about just because an employer was like, you can do this job, you're on your own for this job. And if it gave me a sense of like identity. And so I think going back to all that is like, it's nice seeing that people like you guys want to like help others, especially the people who don't even know they need help, or like that they're getting taken advantage of and stuff like that. I think it's
when they don't know they're being taken advantage of because they don't know what rights they have and what rights they don't have, let alone what protections they have from the contract.
Yeah.
And the same thing you said with the speech, like some people don't even know how to word it. Like they know they're getting taken advantage of, but they don't know how to put it into words or like say like the laws of like this and that. Like it's written on paper.
They don't know exactly how to express themselves.
Correct.
There you go.
Yeah.
You know, and like I said, huge mistake on my part. It's something that I can't fix. When I was in college, you know, I actually at one time went back when we were living in Illinois. I went to Western Illinois University to find out how I would go about finishing my degree, because I forget, I was like 30 hours short or something like that to graduate. But back then, you actually had to have a button chair because they didn't have all the internet and all the tools that are available to everybody today.
Shout out ChatGPT.
And so, you know, I couldn't do that. I was working a full-time job. I couldn't, you know, work my full-time job, drive 30 miles to where the school was located, take all those classes, drive home, do all the homework. Because you remember, there really was no internet back then. So it's not like, I mean, if you wanted to find something, you had to go to the library and look it
Open
up in
the
a book,
the encyclopedia.
page by page, until you find
Ain't
what
nobody
you're
doing that
looking
now.
for.
Ain't nobody doing
No laptops, no cell phones,
Yep.
none of that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm dating myself a little bit, but that's the reality of the situation I was in, and I'm not embarrassed to say it. It's something that I owned up to, and I expressed the problems and what my daughters shouldn't do. You're going to go to college? Fine. Your mom and I are going to fully support you. Don't quit. You're not allowed to quit. You have to graduate. And my oldest daughter went to Cal Poly Pomona. She got her bachelor's degree in animal health sciences. She's worked for the military. She's been to Baghdad and Jordan to take care of the military canine dogs. She was on campus in the embassy when they had a mortar attack her last time there. Now she's in veterinary school in the Grand Cayman Islands. And my other daughter got a degree in sociology, and she's got a really good career at AAA right now. And I'm proud of both of them. They stayed in school. They got their education. But what you alluded onto earlier is trade schools need to come back. They need trade schools.
Yeah.
They used to have them. When you were in high school, well, at least when I was in high school, you had auto shop, you had electric shop, you had metal shop, and you had wood shop. We actually had a drafting, it wasn't a shop, but it was a class to learn architecture. They had all of that stuff. It was just part of the curriculum. You could take it or not take it. I don't know that they have all that anymore.
I think they have wood shop.
Yeah, in my high school they have it still, but it's like very light. I think the thing that's happening is a lot of kids my age nowadays, especially the generation that's coming up, is like we see all these celebrities and we see all these influencers, and TikTok is a big thing, Instagram, we're scrolling all day, that we want to emulate that, and that has nothing to do with trade, and that business is dying. But hopefully what I hope is these people who are coming into like these union jobs, hopefully they want to get into a trade and have better union representative so that they can grow in that trade and make a like a golden age jump back into the trade movement and get people to like this. Like the world can't function without trades. Like I don't understand when people say like we don't need to do these jobs. Like these are necessary jobs to sustain the world. Like if all the blue collar workers were gone, I don't even know if the world would work for like a week. It's crazy.
No, it would definitely wouldn't work for a week. It just let's just take the drivers, the truck driving aspect of it.
Okay.
Everything that is consumed on a daily basis
100% yes.
is moved by a truck.
Yes.
Now, they may, in the future, they may be able to come, this whole AI and self-driving trucks. A lot of this, in my personal opinion, is BS because the roads would have to be in such pristine condition that the lines
Right,
the lines
the
are all
right
there.
That is
the sensors are there.
Yeah, that's the argument.
I've seen information videos where they talk about some of the testing that was done, and the sensors. When the trucks are driving through inclement weather or rain or mud, and they're experience mud or a lot of insects. Like we just got back from vacation, driving to New Orleans to visit family. The car's full of bugs. So the sensors are. How are those sensors going to be clean? Because if the sensors aren't clean, they're not going to be able to pick up everything they need to pick up to keep that truck or package car, whatever they end up coming up with. I'm not saying it'll never happen. I just don't feel that it's anything in the near future. And even if it was, who's going to deliver it in LA traffic through all the city streets? How are those trucks going to get there? And then who's going to offload them? And maybe it could get there, but who's going to unload the truck?
Yeah. I mean, technology is going to catch up with the whole, like, I agree with you on everything you're saying. But technology is going to reach. But the one thing that you just said in the last part that can be replaced is just human intuition. Intuition is, I don't know if technology can get to intuition because they are trying to get them to learn emotional cognizance. But just understanding, like, there's a crash on the road, the sensors will say stay within the lines. But a real trucker would understand if I have space to get around, I can make my route and then people will follow along another route. And so I think the intuition aspect is the thing that the AI right now that I see generative AI is lacking. But we'll see a couple years from now where
we'll all see how it goes. But I don't everything that we see, and I didn't do a lot of over the road when I first moved here to California. I worked for a crane company, and I moved a lot of oversized loads because I had expertise moving excavators and heavy equipment in Louisiana with my family's business. And we moved, the biggest thing I moved was like a 90-foot section of trolley crane, and another driver had another piece, and we were on 2 stretch 80-foot flatbeds, and we moved that from Phoenix to Pennsylvania. The amount of stuff that you see in the different regulations you have in each state regarding pilot cars, speed, hours of operation, all that has to be taken into consideration when you're talking about developing autonomous vehicles.
Yeah, autonomous vehicles, yeah.
Okay? Those other regulations don't go away.
Yeah.
Okay? And so when that autonomous vehicle gets a flat tire or has an air leak, is the computer system, and what's the computer system in that truck going to tell that vehicle to do if the shoulder is narrow?
Mm-hmm.
Is it just going to pull over? Is it going to stop where it's at? Is it going to continue down the road until there's a safe place to get out of the way? And then is it going to automatically call road service to come fix that problem? I mean, there are a lot of issues related to truck driving, other than it just driving itself.
Yeah, I like this topic right here where we're at. I mean, it's funny. Like a lot of the times when we get in positions of power, but we see employees like UPS workers, we take away the humanization aspect. Where like we're all humans, right? Like to ask you guys, like start with you, like for the people who are gonna vote for you, like to get to know you. What's something that you like to do to shoot the shit? Like, what's something that makes you, like, you're not part of the union, you're not part of the UPS. Like, who are you that what do you really like enjoy to do?
I've always been like a car guy, for instance.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Old school or like the sports cars?
Well, I'm a Volkswagen guy. My first car was a Volkswagen Bug, and I learned how to tinker on that. And then, I mean, when you own a Volkswagen, you learn how to work on cars. For the most part, but that's always been. I have Volkswagens still now, not old ones anymore. I have water cool ones. I have a '98 GTI. That's all.
Those are bad.
Yeah, I've completely ripped it apart. I've redone the motor, everything, top to bottom, nut, bolt, everything on it. And then I have another newer one, a little Jetta that I use for my commuter, and just tinkering with things like that. That's my main thing. Most of my buddies, I haven't messed with them lately, because I get overwhelmed with things and just space and stuff like that, and then money, obviously. That's
it's expensive.
Yeah,
hobby.
I hate to say, I don't know how I did it before, but things are a lot cheaper now. But now, I mean, my other GT, I've blown the transmission on that thing a few times. Stripped second gear, third gear. If it makes too much power, you break stuff. And you're like, oh, there goes $3,000, there goes $4,000, and then. But yeah, that's most of my stuff that I talk with my buddies at work. We're just going out, hanging out. But lately it's been pretty mellow, I'm not gonna lie. But cars are my main thing. Yeah, cars. That's like you guys said, we talked about social media a little bit. We have stuff like that, but yeah, on my social media feed, I'm always I'm looking to see what people are doing around, in different places. Everyone has a different car scene, New York's different, Japan's different, and you can see what other people are doing. You get ideas and stuff like that.
Yeah, the car scene's always been fucking huge. Right now, the biggest thing that I see in my age is the LA takeovers.
Oh yeah, that's another.
People get run over.
Yeah, I don't understand that. I don't. Yeah, I see more people getting hurt from those things than anything else. It's like, what are these guys doing? But that seems like. I mean, I'm not trying to bash anyone's thing, but I know they're probably like stealing cars and they take them to those things, and those cars are stolen. But I've always just taken it to the track. I've been to Buttonwillow and stuff like that, and taken my car out there and raced it against. I mean, cars that are way faster than mine. They just blow by me, and I thought my car was quick, and I'm like, oh. Or they can drive it better, what I mean? Yeah, and then you learn, that's, you got to go out there and try, and that's what we're trying to do too, is you got to go out there and try.
Yeah.
Because, like Mike said before, he's like, because then you end up regretting it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why I communicate with a lot of my buddies. A lot of my buddies at work too, they're into cars too. They have their, some of them are into, the slam, like the VIP look, the Lexuses and stuff like that. Slam, everyone's got their own flavor.
What about you? What is some shit? Just shooting the shit?
Outside interest?
Anything.
For me?
Anything.
Yeah, well,
outside,
I mean,
just anything.
What I used to do before I got hired here at Vaughn's is like I said, I was involved in baseball for a lot of years, and and then a group of guys when I lived in New Orleans, we used to play golf. I like to play golf.
I still haven't gotten into it.
And moving here and the job we have here, it's not real conducive because even though I know a lot of guys that play, our schedules are so different. We all have different days off, different start times. So I haven't done a lot of that here. But when I lived in New Orleans, it was like every Sunday we had a regular foursome. And we'd get together. We'd meet up we'd pick a course at 6 in the morning. We'd be there because we tried to be home by 12 or 1 o'clock to spend the rest of the afternoon with my wife and my kids. But we did that, and I'm hoping one day when I retire I can get back into doing that.
Yeah.
It's just, for me, it's relaxing.
Yeah.
It's out there. It's quiet. Depending on where you're playing, some of the golf courses I played at in New Orleans and Mississippi, or Florida as well, in the Panhandle around Pensacola. They're really beautiful. The scenery is gorgeous, and it's relaxing, and it's not a real competitive thing. You get out there, and, you're talking, you're conversing, you're just relaxing with the guys. Have a beer or two, maybe. If you're playing, a quarter hole or 50 cents a hole and it starts getting competitive, just to put something on the line. You're not gonna make. It's not about. It's obvious that it's not about money because you're not playing for that.
But the bragging rights is a little fun.
But it's more. Hey, we're on this par 3. We're gonna see who can get closest to the pin.
Yeah.
Well, okay, we'll do 50 cents on this hole, closest to the pin. Or at the end of the day, low score buys lunch. If you end up winning, you won, but you're going to buy lunch for everybody else. I'd like to get back into doing that.
That's good. So your guys' next event is May 4th, right?
Yes.
May 4th. I think that's cool. That way they can get to know you now. It's not just about solidarity, but it's also about like just human connection and understanding like all that.
Then members can meet other members too. You know what I mean? You might be able to put a face to a name and stuff like that. You can feel more comfortable. There's probably people at work that know people, see them every day, or probably worked with them, maybe not directly, but saw them at work for 10, 15 years, never said hi.
Yeah.
And then now you could see them at this fundraiser and this event and be like, hey, you share something now in common. Like, hey, what do you guys think of this? And so we just want everyone to get out, like I said, bring awareness to everyone.
How because you guys do all of Orange County, how are you making sure that, ideally you want everybody to know about it, but how are you doing it so everybody knows about this upcoming event?
We'll be handing out the flyers and stuff like that, and then it's also on Facebook and Instagram. Yeah, that's on the flyer on the back, Solidarity 952.
When you say hand out flyers, you can only do so much, right? Because there's so many businesses that you have to go to,
Yeah, we'll hand them out to guys at work and stuff like that.
I
but
see.
yeah, we'll go to different, yards and stuff like that and just hand them out that way. And word of mouth is big too. So if I can get 2 or 3 guys to share with 2 or 3 guys they know and stuff like that, word spreads. Plus people like to eat and hang out or whatever. So it's
And then it gives them the opportunity for one-on-one.
The one-on-one.
You are at a dinner, but that only lasts so long.
Right.
And and then after that, they can come up and have a face-to-face and ask us anything. In person.
Yeah, I wanted to ask that. Because I remember I asked you about being on stage in the Q&As, but can you give me a real emotional story? No names, but just once the Q&A was over, dinner was done, and you started talking to people, what's a story that moved you, that either from what you helped someone do, or just someone that's like, hey, I need help with this or something?
I don't think, not at the dinner too much, not so much, at least the first one. No one really brought, at least I didn't get to discuss with anyone any experience that they particularly had, but there was concern. A lot of it was concern with just, like I said, the lack of leadership from the current or whatever, but I think that's what their concern was. So they wanted to know, they wanted to probably get the vibe from us too and see hey, how do they act outside of work? Because everyone's, when you're at work, sometimes it's all work, you're busy, you're thinking of 10 million things or whatever. So now we're outside of work, but also you can get a good vibe from people when you're hanging out with, you know what I mean? When you see someone in person and the way they act or interact with people.
And if they're drinking, you definitely see that.
Exactly. Yeah. And then exactly. If they have a few drinks, you know what I mean? Then, they could really be social butterfly or something like that. But yeah, that's kind of the key, just to get everyone out there.
So what are the concerns that you were hearing from these discussions?
Like I said, it's just a lot of it's. We talked about this before with amongst us, or a lot of guys talk about it. Like it's the whole being able to address things with people. But you try to address something with people that are holding. I don't want to direct anything, but
just people who can help.
Yeah, people that can help, and then they may tell you an answer, but they don't really fix your problem.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, what am I supposed? I have a legit issue here. And then usually what happens is you go to someone else, or you come to me, or whatever, or you come to Mike or Wayne or Carlos, and then we say, well, that's not really how it goes, and then you try to help this person. It's like, well, they told me this, and it's the uncomfortability that people don't have that. They should be able to, you guys should be, like, if we end up voting in, you can always come to me, just what's going on. I'm not going to be mad at you because, hey, you like to deliver a route a certain way and I do it this way.
Well,
hey, everyone's got their own way of doing things, what I mean? And I'm not here to, as long as we're all doing everything safe and,
Yeah, that sense of being able to, like, you want to talk about a problem, but you can't because it's not getting fixed, that builds frustration.
Yeah, and that's
heavy frustration.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one of the biggest things is like, and then sometimes when there's no result,
Yeah, exactly.
When there's no result, then you're sitting there and you're like, you're going to explode. Yeah, then something happens at work that really affects you.
And then that causes, like, interconnectedness, just like bad energy within the whole work environment.
Exactly. Yeah, and that happens too. That's what's happened as well. Some of the energy at work is like we're all fighting amongst ourselves. I feel like sometimes, and it shouldn't be that way.
You shouldn't. No, you should not. Especially because you're there more than you are with your fucking family.
100%. And when I'm out there on the road, I got a driver that hey man, I had an 8-hour request, something like this. They're not helping me, this and that. Like back in the day, you could pick up the phone, call the driver next to you, like, hey man, can you cover this pickup for me? Help me out. No problem, dude. Like, what time you need to pick it up, and then later down the road, he may buy you a soda or a sandwich or burger. Yeah. Like, hey man, I got you back. Just respect. You know what I mean? I think a lot of that culture has kind of gone away. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's everyone's just I'm not saying scared, or I don't know what it is.
But you want to bring it back.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I would definitely want to bring all that back. And I think when people can talk to people and relate and stuff like that, I think that'll translate into the work environment as well. That way you could be like, hey man, I can go to any one of you guys for a problem and, I get addressed. It gets looked through. Or,
I definitely want to work. I mean, of course, anybody wants to work in an environment like that better than any fucking stress environment. What about you? Did the same thing happen to you? You didn't really have an emotional...
Well, for me, probably the most personal or emotional thing somebody said or brought up at their last fundraiser was a driver that came up, and he's an older guy. I think he's in his 50s. And he took the microphone actually and said this in front of everybody, where he was expressing his personal feelings and his personal gratitude that, and this is information. I know this guy personally because I trained him. And I didn't know he felt this way. But he was expressing his gratitude, not only for himself but for the other drivers, for what we accomplished with the day-to-day work environment over the attendance issue, because there were legitimately drivers who were being, written up and suspended. And personally, honestly, I don't know of anybody who was terminated. But it doesn't say it wouldn't have happened if it would have continued. Yeah. And he was expressing his personal gratitude to me for that. And that was kind of touching because he had never opened up to me like that before. I mean, I've known the guy, but for him to open up like that was actually pretty gratifying, that somebody actually was legitimately grateful for what we had got done. And you hear some people say it, but this guy was really, you could feel it. You could feel it in his
you can't
coming correct. And that was a good feeling. I really appreciated him doing that.
I think is there anything else you guys want to say? I feel like we got a lot.
I think it went pretty well.
Anything else that I feel like I missed that you guys want to end it with or just say?
Nope, just we have that other fundraiser on Sunday, May the 4th, 2025, and we're going to do our best to make sure we get as many people there, and not only to get together and bring your feelings together, but also get the one-on-one time that you don't get a lot of.
Mm-hmm.
And they can come up to any of us, whether it's Carlos or Wayne or Jesse or myself, and ask us anything, and we'll do our best to express whatever it is you're trying to figure out. And if not, then that gives us homework, and we can go figure it out and get the answer that you're looking for. Now, you may not like the answer, but you will get the right answer.
Yeah.
You know, that's one thing that I said to all the guys. Look, if you want the truth, come find me. I'm going to give it to you straight.
Yeah.
Now, you may not like the answer you're going to get, but it's going to be the truth.
Yeah, sometimes the truth hurts.
Yeah.
There's that quote, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully it goes good for you guys. Thank you guys for coming out.
Thank you very much
thank
for
you for having us.
having us today.
Appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thank you.